since morning we have heard a lot about insulin resistance and obesity. Now we'll see what is happening in rural areas also. Because today's conference mandate is pre-diabetes and it is a trajectory of concern, and that is true. But at the same time it is giving us an opportunity also to reverse it. And that's why this topic is very important, and that's why I made a point to attend this conference. And I have attended all the sessions since morning. It gives a prospect to design us some policies and some nutritional modifications also, because all of you are nutritionists and we need your help to design policies. When we talk of reversing diabetes in more than 136 million Indian population, pre-diabetic, we must think of our rural population who is residing in villages. Because 70% of India's population is in villages. And it will be more challenging to reverse diabetes in them because they are suffering from various constraints, economical, educational and societal constraints, and it will be very difficult to reverse pre-diabetes in them. Therefore, I am thankful to the organizers and even Subhadra Madam to invite me and to allow me to share the current facts about the representative villages which I am going to talk about. I also thank Veena Madam because she introduced us to Subhadra Madam. My talk is based on my clinical experience from a tiny village called Devan. This is midway between Mumbai and Goa. It is a narrow strip of hilly land. It is also called as Konkan. It is bounded on one side by Sahyadri ranges of mountain and on another side is Arabian Sea. And exactly midway you can see here is Devan. Now most of the inhabitants are farmers. They are from low socio-economic strata. They are growing only rice and pulses, and their staple diet is rice. Vegetables and fruits are sourced from outside, like the other districts, and groceries are available only in the weekly markets. That's also to the 10 to 12 villages, they share one market, and it is available only once in a week. Tertiary schools are far away from their hamlets and villages. That means the child has to walk a long distance, maybe 8 to 10 kilometers per day. One girl, in fact, while doing GD, she told me that you get all vegetables and fruits, but we don't get it. You get in the cities. So that's how she told me. So means availability, accessibility and affordability are the main barriers for their health. And this has led to widespread undernutrition in this region. Then sitting in a clinic, as I am working there for last 30 years, when I used to see patients in my OPD, adult patients used to come with diabetes, but they were all undernourished. And they had very high glucose and having micro and microvascular complications. Even Tata Memorial Center outreach program, where we conducted it in Konkan, it showed that thinness was more than 50% of the villages. And severity of heart attack, like coronary artery disease severity, was directly proportional or associated to their low BMI status and not with obesity. And this made us review our own data of last 3 decades to explore potential roots of diabetes in these undernourished population. So to trace it backward, we started with pregnancy. And this exhibited that pregnant women had BMI of around 20 at the time of delivery. And even the percentage of undernourished women having gestational diabetes was 21%. And 50% of them might have primary diabetes than gestational diabetes. Antenatally also, intrauterine growth of a fetus was lagging behind in second trimester, and around 40% of the neonates were born low birth weight with small placentas. And this was associated directly with the maternal stunting and maternal undernutrition. Data of around 33,000 kids showed that 38% of them are stunted and 26% are wasted. Similarly, data on 60,000 adolescent girls showed that there is a widespread undernutrition in them. So, considering these adverse effects of maternal undernutrition, which leads to impaired fetal programming. Dr. V. Mohan commented about Dr. Yadnik's study that he doesn't believe in this undernutrition in a maternal womb. But this is how it goes, that impaired fetal programming, which increases the risk of diabetes in the adulthood for that fetus, That's why we decided to focus from adolescent age. And thus we established a cohort of adolescent girls in 2019. And they are all from Konkan. This is funded by Rajiv Gandhi Science Technology Commission. And this cohort aims to explore the disease biology of diabetes in Konkan, as these girls are harbinger of future diseases, but they are fate of next generation also. So what is the hypothesis? Hypothesis goes like this. Poor physical growth and nutrition during girls' adolescence increases the risk of diabetes in her adulthood as well as in her offspring. So this is how we are going to generate more number of diabetics even from rural areas. 1,520 girls of the age 16 to 18 were enrolled from 3 different talukas for this cohort, and this is now the 5th year of the cohort. The girls were investigated for body size and anthropometry and body composition, and nutritional data was collected, and hormones, and as madam mentioned in her last presentation, she did a lot of investigations, but we have also done many, like all biochemical parameters, renal function, liver function, lipid profile, all vitamins, all hormones, including leptin and adiponectin, and then trace elements like copper, zinc, manganese, magnesium, lead. Most importantly, glycemic parameters, because we have also done fasting sugar and HbA1c, insulin and HOMA indices, all have been calculated. And we will be doing this for every year for next 20 years. Because we need to follow her longitudinally. That's what Dr. V. Mohan also said in the morning in his presentation. And we have also created a biorepository where we are going to store their DNAs and RNAs and blood samples and saliva samples. Now, if you see the results, see they are very interesting. 63% of the girls have low BMI. Means their average median weight is around 40. 30% are stunted. 4.2% have only obesity. So obesity percentage is very minuscule. Central obesity is literally absent in them. And wasting ratio of 98% of the girls is either normal or below normal. Zero figure. When we talk about metabolic syndrome, these parameters, they draw attention. Now you see about the dietary diversity. Here what we have done is, we have done the nutritional assessment by 24-hour dietary recall, monthly food diaries and food frequency questionnaires. Here the dietary diversity ranges from 1 to 6, but the median is 3, only 3. And the staple diet, rice, pulses and beans that we can see here, 86% and 99%. But even if they consume roti or dashmi, that is also made up of rice only. And they eat it with usad. You know, most of the Marathi people must be knowing what is usad. So it is consumed with gravy of black beans. Percentage of girls consuming all other food groups. We were talking about how many of you ate vegetable or fruits last week. So very many hands will come up. But in our area, that number is very small, and non-veg is also very low. And even if it is consumed, there are few graphs where it is shown that they are consumed, but the portion size is very small. So we cannot really consider it as it is consumed and it is having effect on their health. Then few of the important biochemical parameters like anemia is present in almost 34% of the girls, and it is predominantly iron deficiency anemia. 86% of the girls have vitamin D deficiency despite sunlight. So this has led to elevated IPTH in 65% of them. And this is due to low dietary calcium consumption. See, it is only 140 milligrams per day. As against that, they require minimum 800 milligrams per day because they are in a growing age. Among lipid profile, cholesterol, LDL and TG are observed only in 5%. Higher only in 5%. And low HDL is seen in 13% of the girls, and it is also known as a marker for metabolic syndromes. Overall, B12 vitamin deficiency status was seen in 32% of the girls. But active vitamin B12, what is called as holo-TC, is deficient in 76% of the girls. And that's why it is causing hyperhomocysteinemia in 48% of the girls, which is also a marker for cardiovascular disease. Amongst these hyperhomocysteinemic girls, more than 90% of the girls are holo-TC deficient. That means it must be a B12 deficiency only. And those having MTHFR polymorphism, this is a very known polymorphism, plus B12 deficiency, both, they are also having high homocysteine. So they are more prone for cardiovascular diseases and stroke in future. Now this slide describes the glycemic parameters, and we have used ADA guidelines. So though morning there was some one session where Dr. Mohan said that above 100 you don't consider, but currently we are considering ADA guidelines to define pre-diabetes, and here impaired fasting glucose was observed in 31% of patients, and elevated HbA1c was in 13%. So overall pre-diabetes was found in 39% of peoples. We do not have OGTT, but postprandial hypoglycemia was found only in 1.2% of the girls. So among these pre-diabetic girls, 95% are underweight or either normal category, and only 5% are overweight. This shows that the characteristic of pre-diabetes in adolescent girls of day 1 cohort are contrasting to the current guidelines of IDF and ATP3 of metabolic syndrome, and most of the girls, they do not fall under these criteria, but still they are heading towards metabolic syndrome. So to dissect it more, we divided all girls of the cohort into 4 quartiles. But the problem was last quartile had very few obese girls. So we divided that quartile into 2 groups, non-obese group and obese group. So you can see lowest quartile has BMI of 12.2 to 16, 12.2. And the uppermost quartile has BMI of 19.8 to 38.3. Now this last quartile we divided into 2 groups like non-obese and obese, and then we compared the glycemic parameters in pre-diabetic and normoglycemic girls in each group. The green line is all normoglycemic girls and red line is pre-diabetic girls. Okay? We observed that the proportion of pre-diabetics and their fasting glucose levels are same in all groups. All these groups, graphs, the fasting insulin shows that the girls in the obese group have hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance. And that is the pathophysiology for their insulin resistance. So that, as against that, for the girls in the other 3 quartiles, which are mostly undernourished or normally nourished, beta cell compromisation is the main pathophysiology. Beta cell function is compromised. So we could observe 2 different pathophysiologies in the same age group causing fasting hyperglycemia, as explained by Dr. Even Yadnik and Dr. V. Mohan sir. But it is not because of insulin resistance, and even weight loss is not going to help them, because insulin resistance, you tell them to lose weight. So is adolescent pre-diabetic a precursor for adult diabetes? Because the characteristics of adult diabetes, as you see in the slide, early onset of diabetes, no central obesity, low BMI, low C-peptide levels, and the sugars are in the range of 700 to 800 with high macrovascular complications. So these characteristics resonate well with the characteristics of the adolescent girls as well. That is, they are pre-diabetes at early age, BMI is low, low body fat, compromised beta cell function, which has led to hyperglycemia, fasting hyperglycemia, elevated homocysteine, and low birth weight. This data is also supported by Barker's hypothesis, or Dr. Yadnik supports it. So which states that if there is intrauterine growth of the fetus is restricted in undernourished pregnancies, then it leads to development of organs which are small in size. And even the number of cells are small, like neurons, nephrons, islet cells, they are all less in number. That is called as impaired fetal programming. This ultimately gets exhausted in adulthood, and thus they manifest as diabetes in adulthood. Now to deep down into it, we also have studied microRNA profiling, and C1, C2, C3 are normal controls. D1 is all adult women and D2 are our pre-diabetic girls. So here there is overexpression of certain microRNAs in diabetic and pre-diabetic group. And this study is done by Dr. Neelam Shirsat from ATTRACT. She is one of the scientists in the group. Then we plan to follow them because this is a less known pathophysiology, less underexplored. So to explore the disease biology of diabetics in undernourished, we plan to follow them for next 20 years, and we will monitor and support them entire reproductive life, starting from marriage, pregnancy and delivery, and we are going to collect their cord bloods also. Now to summarize, what is happening is in our adolescent girls, metabolic capacity is low. That is what is mentioned by Dr. Jonathan Wells and Dr. Yanni, that metabolic capacity is your birth weight. So they are born low birth weight, and therefore their fetal programming is already impaired when they were in the mother's womb. And they have small organ sizes with less number of islet cells. Thus, their capacity we cannot improve. And their metabolic needs are also different. They need to be redefined because they are not matching with the current criteria, because these girls have load of metabolism in the form of undernutrition, inappropriate diet and non-sedentary life, which is contrasting to the metabolic syndrome discussed everywhere. Apart from this, there are other tough challenges like low socioeconomic background, family issues, alcoholic husbands, and they are not empowered to take any decisions. Is it possible to reverse the diabetes in them? Or can we improve the organ capacity of the next generation? It's a challenge for us. As seen in the photograph, we can see here 3 adults. Their average BMI is 40 and sugars are in the range of 700 with retinopathy and nephropathy. They can't afford medicines, they cannot afford insulin, they don't have refrigerators to store insulin, and still we need to prescribe them with insulin. So it is very challenging to advise treatment in these situations, and therefore the treatment should be in the form of precision medicine and how we can improve their muscle mass by nutritional modifications. Now we have designed some strategies to diagnose and treat this undernourished diabetes. First of all, we should do their body composition, and if they are lean, then classify diabetes, whether it is insulin deficient or insulin resistance, and then appropriate measures can be taken. As you see here, you have to supplement them with vitamin D, calcium and B12, and this might lead to some epigenetic changes and might alter the fetal programming for the next generation, but current generation it is very challenging for us. And for adults also, we have to have another markers for diabetes where we can identify them and then start proper medication. But important is large screening programs are required during adolescent and adulthood, because most of the patients who come to us, we have missed them during their adolescent and adulthood, and that's why we need to have screening programs for them. Last but not the least, there is a Sanskrit saying, Nari asya samajasya kushal vastukara asti, Nari shakti shakti samajasya nirmana karoti. Means women are the architect and the pillar of the society, and empowering her will lead to strong and healthy nation. And that's why we have to look at this problem with a holistic approach and to empower her, to educate her and to help her being healthy life. Thank you.